Hello YouTube, this is Mark here with a little test video. I just got a new webcam and I'm hoping to find if it is any good. I have a computer system in my hands and I want to show it. It is the Commodore 64 Webbit, and it basically is a 486 PC with PCMCA slots, and there's a compact flash card in there, and it has a printer out, it has a joy port, serial port, modem, audio, S-video out, composite out, and VGA out, and it has an adapter. It comes with a stylus and a touchpad, and it runs a basic version of Windows 3.1. The system was produced in 1998, I believe, and it was produced by a company. It was produced by a company in the Netherlands and Hills, and yeah, this was supposed to be the next thing. A computer system where people didn't need to worry about viruses and stuff, because the whole OS is flashed into ROM, and yeah, basically a system that won't cause any problems to the users, and was very easy to use. I'll hook it up and I'll show you some of the things. Of course, I hacked into it because I don't want to use only the built-in software, but also some other stuff as well. So that is something that I did, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I'm going to pause this video, hook it up, and yeah, I'll be back in a sec. Hi there YouTube, this is Mark. I am demonstrating the Commodore 64 Webbit computer system, which was brought onto the market pretty late in 1998, I believe, by a Dutch Antilles internet company, computer company, and they had big plans for it, but it never really took off. Partially because it was way too expensive, this system. I think it was about 700 guilders back in the day. It was pre-Euro. It is 2K certified, and it is actually Euro certified, but this was pretty late on. I mean, the Dreamcast came out, you know, and then you have this Commodore 64 Webbit system based on Windows 3.1. Very weird system. I just showed you the outsides. And all the ports and stuff. There's an infrared port, there's a touch pad, and it has no on-off switch, but it does have a power switch. So let's hook it up and see what happens. Mind you, I actually hacked into it. Perhaps I'll explain a bit more. The system has a 16 megabytes of RAM, and part of it is used as a flash drive. There's a flash drive, which is flash memory. Then there is a ROM drive, which contains the embedded OS. They call it MBOS, I believe, which is just a modified version of Windows 3.1 with a special shell. And then you have a file that is a drive that is used to create a drive that is used to create temporary files for the Windows setup. You can actually install other Windows software. But let's hook it up, and I'll show you what you see. So, okay, so it'll flash. Internet computer. Mind you, this is the this is a modified version. Normally you would just see this, and you won't see this but I hacked into the system. You won't see this option. It'll just go to the Webbit OS. and you won't see these error messages, but you'll just boot into this. And this is a Windows 3.1 system, which is really weird in this day and age. I mean, even back in 1998 when it was introduced, it was old. Did you get this? Well, this is Thursday, 1st of January 1998 is actually the, let me get the stylus, is actually the date that the system defaults to. So it's basically more or less a Dreamcast because that defaults to a similar date, perhaps 99 or 98, I'm not sure. This interface, which is controlled by the touchpad, is a replacement for the program manager and the groups, and there's a couple of things on there. There's EMI Pro word processor, which is actually quite old because it's from 1994 and it's a Windows 3.1 application, but yeah, this is fun. I mean, it's you know, it's okay to type on and stuff, but and you can save the files, but it's not really the best, and it's Dutch, of course. It's not really the most compatible word processor. Lotus 123. It's a spreadsheet. Back in the day, Lotus was pretty big, but and it was probably cheap, but. See, save as, and you can save as 123 Excel. Okay, you can save Excel, DBase, Paradox. So old-fashioned file formats, but it's cool. You know, it's nice. Your office at home, your kantoor thuis. So you have basic, you have write, and this is paint, and this is calculator. Let me see what else. Communication, so this is a version of Netscape, I believe, and you have to dial in. It has features a modem, but of course we won't dial up right now. It uses one of the drives, that's Navigator 3. I mean, it has been ages since I last saw that. One of the first versions of Netscape I actually ended up using. I was doing Gopher and Telnet, and so the system is not configured to work with internet, so you get an extra error. So basically this is communication, so it features newsgroup reader, email client, and a very old web browser. Okay, so this is ontspanning, which means relaxation or games. The Commodore 64 emulator. This is where the system was actually advertised with. You know, it would or could function as a Commodore 64 in theory. We'll see how that works later on. Minesweep, Patience, and then you get multimedia, media player, sound recorder, and volume control. So the basic Windows 3.1 things. System tools, which is nice. You have a MS-DOS prompt, and this is actually what I used to. I'm not going to go in there. What I used to hack into the system. Like so. And you have some special tools to get so for on and off the system. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, help programs, basically settings and you know how to format a disk and stuff. Plug-in software, Commodore 64, start program from flashcard 1, flashcard 2, so that's the PCMCIA cards that are in there, but they are not. I'm not sure how to configure them. That data is unavailable online, so that's a shame. And it's also possible to start program special formatted disks, but you know there's no information on that. I tried to get some other software running on there, which is quite hard, and let me show you the directory structure or the file structure. So it has a couple of drives. It has an A drive, which is the floppy drive, then it has the C drive, which is a flash-based memory drive. It uses a couple of directories just to store temporary files on, and just to save files, and you can use the C drive to save your files on, and it'll stay even if you've turned off the system. So it's basically some sort of rudimentary built-in thumb drive. If you get the system and you boot it up for the first time, this drive is empty, but the system has some built-in things that kick in and format the drive and put some things in place. These add files are actually specially configured program manager add-on files, and you can actually put some other modifications in there, put some other files on there, and you actually create different entries in the system menu. I've not done that yet. It's quite difficult to do so, but it's possible. But the thing that's very interesting is the web.auto.batch file. This is a secondary auto-executable batch file that is executed once you've booted it up, the system. And in this system, in that file, I've actually created some commands that allow you to choose between the built-in Windows interface and the MS-DOS interface. It also uses a config sys, and the thing is, and that's a shame, the thing is actually that the system uses hardware-coded is the configuration file, so it actually uses a stacker and a lot of other drivers, also the PCMCIA drivers. So basically the system has about 470 kilobytes of RAM, DOS memory free when you execute it. But that's enough for certain software. It won't be enough for other software. So that's a big thing. The D drive is actually the ROM drive where all the system files are stored. This is the auto-executed batch that is executed. This config sys is actually copied to the C drive, and you can actually modify it, and then it'll look at the C drive config sys and not the ROM drive. So you can configure it a bit, but still it doesn't really do it completely. So there's some hardware issues there, or some configurations issues there. So it's a very interesting system to hack into, because basically I think you should be able to remove it all, and I thought it would be a very nice retro system. The E drive, which is also a flash-based drive that where you have some different file storage systems. The F drive is not formatted. I'm not sure why, but it's some sort of backup system. The G drive, that is very interesting. That is actually my compact flash drive, and it contains quite a number of files. The web clean, that actually, if I run that, it removes the excess of the modifications from the C drive, so basically restores the system to its natural state. The Webbit.batch file, that's actually the system that creates the extra files on the C drive. So, and those are stored in here. So modified auto-execute batch, config sys, and some backup copies of WebAuto. And in Alter there's a different there's some DOS utilities. Basically, this is actually pretty much my DOSBox setup, and I'll show you how that works. But first I'll show you the Commodore 64 emulator, and then I'll reboot it, because it's bad. It's bad. It's not full speed. The processor embedded in this system is supposed to be fast enough to use this Commodore emulator full speed, but it is not, sadly. I think they lowered the specs to save money, and well, people very familiar with the Commodore 64 will see that this just isn't the regular system boot. That's because the borders, the light borders around it are missing. And it's reverse or something. But yeah, it's basically a specialized version of CCS64, which is a pretty good emulator. It started live on DOS, and there's a Windows version for it as well. And this is actually supposed to be pretty good, but it's dead slow. It's too slow to be useful for playing games, arcade games. I mean, writing small basic programs, that's okay on it, which is cool, because, you know, not all systems feature a very nice basic. But yeah, basically this is just not what you want to use the system for. It would have been great if this very compatible cycle exact emulator would have been was full speed. I mean, you could, you know, you could emulate floppy images and stuff. You had Commodore 64 key on the keyboard. You could use a joystick on the like a Microsoft gamepad or something, or another joystick. I have a Competition Pro joystick that you hook up to the old joystick port. Let me go back. It's appalling. I won't. Oh, you know what? It'll boot. Of course, it'll boot back into the system. But I want to boot into the system anyways. But then the hacked version. So I'll let it boot. I'm very tired. I had a very tough day at work. So I mean, if this comes across a little incoherent, well, you know what caused it. So let's unplug it and replug it, and I'll show you what it actually does, what it is capable of, and what I wanted to use it for. There's an older Commodore 64 emulator, C64CS or something, C64C by a Czech guy, which might have been more compatible. Yeah, there are some issues. Sometimes it just won't boot, and you have to press the del key to just clear some entries, and it'll boot. Now it'll boot. It's faster. It's not cycle exact, and it's DOS based. And I thought, well, you know, it would be nice to be able to. Oh man, perhaps I destroyed it. Okay, this demonstration, you know. The table that this system is sitting on, the last system that was sitting on here was my Amiga 1200, and it gave up the ghost. It was dead. Perhaps this system is dying on this table as well, so this is a very unlucky table. Like so, let me see if it does anything. Just be a bit patient. The system won't boot from floppy, which is a shame, because otherwise you would be able to just use your own configuration and boot the system from floppy, but that just isn't the case. It'll boot from the built-in D drive, which has the master boot record, but it just will not boot from. It will not just boot from the floppy, which is a shame, because otherwise the system would have been wide open. You know, I would have been able to copy the files into the floppy and just or perhaps escape or something. I forgot. Well, the whole purpose of this video is me trying to demonstrate how the system works, how I hacked into it, and here it is. Let me escape. So you get an option, start Webbit or start PC-DOS. So I chose this, and then it'll start Norton Commander. And it has very little memory, so I can't do a lot with it. but there are some games on it which, surprisingly enough, work, like Doom. And I think it works because the extender, the DOS extender, the memory extender that this software uses, actually uses the C drive as a swap file. So, and it runs surprisingly well, actually. Of course, it's a 486 class system without a coprocessor. So, and there's supposed to be some music with it, perhaps. Yeah, there's music with it. I turned that off because otherwise it will interfere with my. So yeah, you can just, you know. Whoops. Well, it works, you know, and that's funny. I mean, it plays. It doesn't do Commodore 64 emulation, which is on there, which is branded on there, but it does do a mean Doom too. So yeah, let's see what else runs on there. Well, the regular Doom. Not sure if I need to execute that, but and basically these programs run because they basically run into the extra memory, the memory that is above 640. They just use DOS to load a file and then just execute it. So you can actually run this type of executables, these type of games. Often when you have very little base memory available, so they're very flexible when it comes to that. They just need a couple of hundreds of kilobytes to 128 to boot it. But not all systems will work. Hexen, all these games will work, which is nice. I mean, they're first-person shooters, and these are the games that I actually remember quite fondly when I put my when I got my 486 Pentium class systems. These were the games that I would play. We would have a novel light network with an IPX protocol. I forgot, but. And we would just play this multiplayer online in our own network. We actually created a network, our own network in our dorm. The university didn't provide one for us back in the day. Yeah, so this is a bit slow. Perhaps if I don't want to suicide, but this is a bit slow, but it runs. So I didn't prepare this video that much. So IndyCar, not sure if it'll work. Last time I tried it did run. IndyCar, is there a batch file? I'm just gonna execute IndyCar and see if it works. DOS/4GW. That's actually the very compatible DOS extender that will run if you have very low.
I'm Paul Page. From Papyrus, this is IndyCar Racing.
Conventional memory left. This actually runs pretty okay, but this is an older 3D, so this is actually not. This is not a full motion video. This is actually the game engine using the engine to render it. So that's pretty sweet. I'm not sure if I'm able. Oh, copy protection, which was hacked. Okay, I guess. I mean, this is no 3D card that is used. It's just you know. So let me see. Oh, and the card that's in here is actually quite interesting because it's a Tsang 3000, I believe. So. And the Tsang 4000 is actually one of the best DOS game cards out there. NASCAR Racing, I believe that runs as well. Uses the same DOS extender, so pretty lucky there. Papyrus, well, you know, similar software, 1994, so quite old software if you compare it to the system that it's running on. But I would have been, you know, I would have been very pleased if this game ran like this on my system back in the day. When this came out, my system was pretty slow. And what else? Need for Speed. Oh yeah, that actually runs, and it runs with sound, and it even has full motion video. I got this game on a CD, and I had a 486 25 megahertz system, and I was pretty content. I played it on low settings, and then I saw a friend of mine who had it running on a DX4, 486 DX4, and it ran super smooth. And I actually ended up exchanging my CPU for a DX4. I don't think this runs, but it runs. But sometimes, you know, if you run a lot of software with the Norton Commander, it just eats up the memory, and sometimes it hangs. Perhaps it hangs. No, it does. The thing is, you can't remove the stacker drivers. If you do, you get errors on the drives because the drives are actually stacked drives, which is a shame. So, and the stacker is actually a patched version of stacker that works with the special flash drive. So it's very hard to get into. But yeah, this was stuff I was doing back in the day, so I was using my old knowledge. Rise of the Triad, that works as well. Uses the same DOS 4GW extension. This is the commercial version that I bought back in the day. Who hasn't seen this? I mean, I just love it. I mean, Apogee, anything that came out from Apogee or ID software is something that I would want to have, I would play. So, but yeah, I mean, it works. I'll show you how it loads. Let's bypass that. I never got this. It's like 2 progress bars, and you know, what is what in the thick of it. And it's, I mean, it's running quite okay. You know, this was a very fast game back in the day, and I just loved it. It was very weird. I mean, you have these guys that beg for their life. If you, well, they beg for their lives. Spare me, spare me, spare me. And if you move away a bit, then they decide to kill you after all. So, my English is just very bad tonight. Apogee. So, back. What else is there? Sylpheed, which is actually running quite well. Sylpheed is a how do you say that? It's a shoot 'em up that I didn't know on the PC back in the day. It's from Sharer, and not all. Oh yeah, there's a problem with certain software. Not all software works properly because they use a different screen mode that will not be outputted by the card, the TV out card, because only certain resolutions are used. Oh, this is a horrible sound. So the alternative Commodore 64 emulator that I wanted to use actually doesn't work, and this runs full speed, but so I do have a nice shoot 'em up. And you would think, you know, why not run old, and this you can't reset, why not run old CGA, EGA games, you know, with very little memory requirements, but they just won't run, because there's too much stuff in there prohibiting the system from, you know, performing like a true DOS machine. So this is a very nice. I have to press escape again. This is a very nice system. It would have been a very nice system for just your basic DOS emulation, DOS gaming, and emulation, but it's not. Let me see if there's anything else. Tyrion, well, it's a shoot 'em up. Let me see if I can find it. Tyrion, here, Tyrion. Executable. Oh, Tyrion. So yeah, I haven't connected the joystick. Epic. They use a different DOS extender, but yeah, it does run, and quite nicely actually. No, Tyrion. Let me see. Does the mouse work? Yeah. Tyrion data flux. Whoops. Exit. Return to the previous menu. Exit to the game menu. And then play next level. That's really weird always. I never got that. Why you have to press all these play next level. You just selected it. But, and it plays with the mouse and the well, it runs fast enough. And you can actually play it with the and this is one of the better shooters, I guess, from back in the day. And I remember playing this quite a bit, and I liked it a lot. Quick level, quick game, okay, quit. And then there's some emulators on here that I wanted to show, which don't run full speed, sadly, so it really isn't the ultimate retro system that I thought it would be. I had this lying in the attic for years and years, so I mean, it's no loss. But I don't think I want to hold on to it for a long time. So this emulator, which is by Miha Peternel, this is an emulator that I used a lot back in the day. It was the first, my first, oh yeah, look, this is the problem. Memory requirements. I have 470, so there's 30K too few. And the other system, which is an older system, I can look at the memory. I thought it was a video card on display, but yeah, I just don't have enough memory, so this is a shame because this would have been a great emulator to use. If you want to use an emulator on an old system, this C64S is a very good one. FMSX. This is very interesting. I've created a bash file. This is actually one of the more well-known MSX emulators out there back in DOS days. Marat Faizulan programmed this, and this doesn't run at full speed. It runs smooth, it draws all the frames, and you can actually introduce frame skips. But yeah, it's not really the retro system or the emulator that you want to use. Let me see. And then we have MAME. I was trying to use MAME. I have a very old version of MAME, but MAME actually requires a coprocessor. This system doesn't have a coprocessor, so forget about an old version of MAME. It would have been great to run some old arcade games on there. I mean, it does use an extender, I believe, but no way, it doesn't run. It gives an error. I can actually show you what it does. MAME. Pac-Man, for example, and then it'll just crash. Yeah, because it doesn't have any coprocessor. Coprocessor is not available at, so it's compiled with a coprocessor in there, the requirements of a coprocessor. This is a very old version of MAME. Let me see, Genesis emulation. Cajun, I believe. Genesis doesn't display a proper. It has problems with this outputting on the screen. Let me see, Cajun 98. Whoops. Gen 98. Perhaps an older version of this, and the P-mode W extender. So you think, ooh, great, the menu is pretty fast, it's like, great. And G was the drive that my emulators are on. So let's hack Lest. You think, wow, let's play Lest. And then there's no Lest, or very slow Lest. Let me see. I did configure the keys prior to this, but over here. Now, well, it's too slow, isn't it? This is just not going to work. So, the Webbit, if you got one, not sure what to use it for. It's not a system I would really hold on to. It is a licensed Commodore 64 product. Stop the capture. It is a licensed Commodore 64 product because the company actually bought Commodore or had a license for it back in the day. But yeah, it's a really weird laptop-like thing, which could have been great. The processor inside is actually able to run at 100 megahertz, and when you look at it, you use some system tools, the speed varies from 40 to sometimes 66, so perhaps even the processor speed is variable on this, which would have been weird actually. It would be weird actually, but perhaps it's possible to just overclock it, but it's passively cooled, so I think would have a problem because there's no fans in here, which is nice, to have a DOS system without a fan. And yeah, I've been trying to get into the BIOS, but there's no key combination that allows you to get into it. Otherwise, it would have been easy to just to have the not the PCMSIA because you need special drivers for that, but. Yeah, to boot from the floppy drive, you have a bootloader on there, and if you configure it and load in files necessary to load stuff from the PCMCA slot, would have been great. I mean, you just bypass the whole internal structure, you boot off the floppy, and you just for the boot sector and the config and the auto executable, and you make a couple of backup floppies for that, and you just make sure that it just boots from that. And then just do everything on the compact flash. That's something I'm looking into if it is possible. And then it would be a much nicer configurable system, because then you would actually be able to even run Windows 95 on this. It does feature 16 megabytes of RAM, which is interesting because it would be great for Windows 95, but yeah, for now there's no way into the system. If anybody has actually been able to hack into this a bit more, getting rid of the memory restrictions, that would be awesome. But yeah, for now there's just no way on earth that is gonna work. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap this up and put it back into in the attic, I guess. So, well, Mark signing off. This was just a quick video testing out my new webcam and doing the dual monitor thingy. And this has lasted far too long. I guess this is over 30 minutes. So, Mark signing off, and I'll be back with another video soon.